Number 2 in the poll is where I thought things got a little bit interesting.
Okay.
I was kind of surprised that Michigan got that high.
Why?
Because the way that they lost in the championship game, and actually, here's what it is. It's not that semifinal game. It's not the fact that Michigan is fielding a good team or that, they do have their quarterback coming back. It's none of that stuff. I think Jim Harbaugh is so gone here. And that doesn't matter. That doesn't mean they can't be the second-ranked team in the country. But they are the preseason number 2, and I don't even think Harbaugh, wants to be there. The last 2 seasons, he has tried to leave for the NFL, at least shown extreme interest. And these have been 2 of the best seasons at Michigan since he took over. Beating Ohio State in both seasons and going to the college football playoff. Yeah. I don't understand why now he wants to leave, but if you and I were to make a bet, is Jim Harbaugh going to be coaching Michigan next season? I would say no shot. And if that Chargers job opens up, now that they've paid Justin Herbert, and if Brandon Staley doesn't have a good season, I could see Harbaugh getting that job.
It does seem, though, that the NFL is not calling on Harbaugh for some reason. They're bringing him into the building, but they're not offering him the job. So maybe the same thing will happen next year.
I don't know. I think if you want to get to the NFL that badly,
he's interviewed crazy.
I know, but maybe you start changing your tune a little bit in interviews. Maybe you do start conceding a few things. Maybe if Jim Harbaugh wanted full control and wanted GM responsibilities too, or final say, or I have no idea what he's asking for, maybe you ease up on that a little bit when you're not getting jobs.
I hear you. I mean, I think, one thing's going to happen this year. He's going to waltz into the Final Four. There's zero chance the Wolverines aren't in the Final Four. So he's going to have a successful season. He's got J.J. McCarthy back. He's got Blake Corum back and healthy. I thought they'd get looks at 1 because they were 2 last year, and everybody stayed, basically. I mean, they did lose some players to the pros, but this is his best shot ever. So I think he's going to – you look at the schedule, there's almost no way they're not in the Final Four. So once he gets another Final Four trip, his stock will be so high that I agree that he will get in the NFL, but there seems to be something about his personality and what he's asking for that doesn't sit right with existing teams. If you're a GM, you don't want Jim Harbaugh. That's the problem. So you have to have the right situation where everybody was sort of cleaned house.
Okay, well, I could see the Chargers, everyone getting fired if things go poorly this year, and I could see the Raiders, everybody getting fired if things go poorly this year.
Isn't the Raiders guy... Oh, yeah, he's gone, Ziegler, yeah.
Those are 2 places, and that's just
how long
the top of my head.
How long has Dave Ziegler been there? Wasn't Mayock there a couple years ago?
What does it matter? There's no loyalty when it comes to the NFL. Now, Jeffrey Howell in the chat, youtube.com/CBS Sports Radio, says the best way for a good college football coach to get a raise is to hint at leaving. And I agree
that's true.
that Harbaugh, and I think he did employ this after, remember, Michigan asked him to take a pay cut. And he did that. And then I think he got that money back with the original flirtation with Minnesota. Do you remember when he was literally at the Vikings facility on signing day? I think that was about getting more money. Last year, I don't know if that was about getting more money. I think last year was like, all right, I'm really thinking about what's next for me and when I'm going to get back to the NFL.
Okay. All that being said, back to your original premise, does that matter?
It shouldn't matter. No. They can have a great team.
No.
That was just what stood out to me.
Well, will he be less engaged because of this?
No, I don't think so. He's still Jim Harbaugh. He's insane,
Okay, yeah.
Eats, sleeps, drinks, he's nuts.
That's a great point. So, yeah, this is really, if Michigan, here's the other thing for Harbaugh. If they can't do it this year, they're never doing it. Because not only do they have their quarterback back, everybody else's quarterback is gone. Alabama's quarterback gone. Georgia's quarterback gone. Ohio State's quarterback gone. So you look at the powers that be, the teams that can legitimately win the title. There's not a lot around. I think Michigan should storm through the season right here. They've been handling Ohio State. There's no reason to think they're not going to do it again. So they might go into the Final Four undefeated again, and then I guess it's anybody's bet. That TCU loss didn't kill me because that was a wild game.
It was a wild game.
Yeah.
What was your big takeaway from the coaches?
So that very TCU team, I think TCU at 16, I understand why they're 16. I think they can move way ahead of that because of the very reason that they made the Final Four last year. They are better than these Big 12 teams. Now, listen, they lost Duggan.
Yeah.
And I understand that. But the guy, I'm sorry, I don't have his name right here. The guy, I think it's Chad Morris or something like that, who is the TCU, who was the original quarterback before Duggan got there. Morris got hurt. Duggan took over, so he's supposed to be better than him. He's a big recruit. And they brought in Kendall Briles, who was great at Arkansas. They should have a good offense. And I just don't think the Big 12 is great again this year. And I think they have a great chance to win a ton of games. So I thought 16 was a little low for that because they win 1 or 2 games. Now they have a little bit of cachet. You know, they were in the final game. So I think that it'll get a lot of respect from voters, that they have a chance to get back into the picture this year. They remind me a little bit. Remember that great Butler team?
Yeah, of course. Butler
basketball. They're kind of like that. I mean, there's no other dominant team. Oklahoma and Texas, listen, I know that they're loaded, Texas specifically, but you said earlier in the show, do they ever deliver on that promise?
Well, I mean, listen, everyone's going to give Texas their best shot this year and Oklahoma, but that's just because I think they're ticked off that they're leaving to go to the SEC. But that's really funny. So do you think if you're going to use your Butler analogy, does that mean Sonny Dykes is actually going to go to the NFL? Because that's what Brad Stevens did with the Celtics.
That's also, thank you for bringing that up. He's a great coach, too. So I think that really helps them here. They have a tough game September 16th at Houston.
Yep.
If they could get past that, then it's really doable to go on another run.
I don't know. Last 3 games of the season, Texas, Baylor, at Oklahoma.
If they go into that, okay, you could probably get a loss out of that. But I think they're going to be favored at Texas at home. I mean, Texas, a lot of big names. They have some young quarterbacks there. I don't know. I'm not going to put all my money on
it. Could be in the Heisman race at that point.
Yeah.
Or Arch Manning could be starting. It could be either way.
Quinn Ewers, what's the big win he has in his college career?
Well, I mean, I'm just saying.
And how old is he? He's 20 years old anyway.
He cut the mullet, and everyone thought now he's, Peyton Manning.
I hear you. I hear you. Where is Texas on that list? They're pretty high up, too. I still think a team like TCU, for some reason, they just seem like the kind of team that goes up. Where Texas is 12. So TCU is 16 and Texas is 12. I'll side bet TCU. I love Sark, so I don't want to do this. But TCU could climb higher than Texas.
Well, I'm not taking that bet. Definitely not. As the person who was the resident TCU believer last year.
You were.
Then there's no way that I'm going to jump off the Horned Frogs now.
Look at this Big 12 action. Texas is 12. TCU is 16. Kansas State is 17. I mean, they're always hanging around. Oklahoma, 19. Big 12. Then Texas Tech, 24. Maybe this is a major conference, Maggie. Maybe I'm not giving enough love.
Listen, this is Perloff slander against the Big 12.
Well, their first team on here is 12. So there is 11 better teams around the country. Yeah, it's called a 12-team playoff. That doesn't make me feel great.
Yeah, not even this year. It's still 4. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Samter, you look like you have something on your mind.
Just go back to Harbaugh. I mean, I know you think that he's gone, and maybe he is, but let's say he does stay. It feels like for the first time in a while, he has to win a title, right? To Perloff's point, there's no excuse.
This is it. Right? This is it for him.
This is the best team. He's got talent. He's got guys returning. Ohio State is vulnerable. They've won 2 straight. They've got momentum. He has to win a title, and if he doesn't. He exceeded expectations his first couple years in Ann Arbor. Then he fell short of expectations. Now he's there. He's number 2, and they have to at least not get embarrassed in the playoffs. If they're going to lose in the playoffs, they have to look formidable or at least competitive.
Well,
They've done nothing.
Their loss against TCU in the semifinal, while that was a crazy game, it only looked worse after Georgia dismantled TCU. After that game was over, it was like, wow, crazy game. But, hey. TCU was, that was an incredible performance. But then after Georgia smoked TCU, it made Michigan residually look bad.
By that associated property, though, Ohio State basically should have beaten Georgia, had them where they wanted. Ohio State couldn't even compete with Michigan in the second half. So that made Michigan look a little better. Here's the problem. Georgia just plays nobody and is going to walk into the Final Four. So they have to play this darn Georgia team again.
You know what's crazy? What Harbaugh, I think, was trying to do? Have you guys heard of, the Vegas exit?
No, I've heard of the Irish exit. What's the Vegas
exit? I've heard of that one. This is like when you walk out when people are clapping, So it's like while everyone's clapping and everyone's standing giving you an ovation, you don't stick around and do 2 more jokes. You leave.
Is that the Costanza?
Yeah, the Vegas exit. So I think Harbaugh was probably trying to pull that off last year. Like, hey, got the semifinal, lost in a crazy game. Beat Ohio State 2 years in a row, and that's how everyone will remember me. And meanwhile, the Denver Broncos decided to hire Sean Payton. So
I also think Harbaugh, I understand what you're saying, but Harbaugh did the math. He looked at Blake Corum coming back and said, ooh, I got a chance here. This is this would have been a hard team to walk away with because he didn't want to walk away from Michigan and watch someone else win the title. I don't think.
I mean, to come back, though, because your running back is coming back. I mean, he was hurt last year. Like, that could happen at any time.
But he's sick, and J.J. McCarthy looks like he could be really good. I don't know. It just sort of feels like everything is laying out perfectly for Michigan this particular year. And, you know, there are real ties to Ann Arbor. His family's there. His dad is there. There are a lot of reasons he's stuck by there. It is weird that he keeps on interviewing.
Do you remember, though, but this was also the NCAA came down, hit him with recruiting violations.
Yeah.
He's got a suspension. I mean, it's a lot of this nonsense, too. Nonsense, probably, I'm assuming from his point of view, right? It's like middle of the pandemic, and you're going to ding me for a couple recruiting violations, you know, like over some hamburgers, basically, and like buying food and having contact with guys when you're not supposed to. Meanwhile, the entire landscape of college football has been completely turned on its head in the year and a half since, 2 years since.
So 2 years ago, Michigan lost 34-11 in the Final Four to Georgia. Now, have they closed the gap in that time? How could Georgia lose 8 guys to the first round of the NFL draft 2 years in a row and still be amazing? I believe they will be, but I just don't understand where this well of talent is coming from.
I was the one who said, how can Georgia can't pull off this three-peat? You want to know why? Because no one's done it since the 1930s. And I was told, no, Maggie, you don't know. You don't understand. They're so good. They're just going to run it back, and they've got this great schedule. It's going to be so easy. I can't. For Georgia to pull off a three-peat, I think is all but impossible. Because if you could do it, I think you would have seen Alabama do it. And if you could do it, you would have seen USC do it. And you would have seen Florida State do it. And you would have seen Miami do it. And these great powerhouses who got close but never did it.
Well, listen, Georgia barely snuck through Ohio State this year. And really, I mean, Alabama was leading in the fourth quarter of the year before. So you're right. They've been very close games. This divisional sort of lineup does help them. And the schedule helps them. You have to admit, with 4 teams going to the playoff, it's going to be really hard for Georgia not to be one of them.
Listen, I watched them almost lose last year at, Mizzou? I mean,
but they could lose one and be just fine.
Well, but I don't know, because if your schedule is that light, if you will, if you lose one of these games, it could look really, really bad.
But I think a one-loss, 2-time defending champion, that's a strong argument. I just think the fact that they keep winning is going to give them an edge in the committee.
855-212-4CBS. Mike's in Ohio's got a thought on Michigan. I'm sure he does. Hi, Mike. How are you?
Yeah. Good. How are you guys?
Good.
Perloff, I just have a question. I want to know, where did this, found love you have of Michigan come from? Because it, came out of nowhere, and it's like,
Dude,
Harbaugh's coming back because of Blake Corum, and McCarthy might be okay. I don't know, I know that Michigan, since the year 2004, is 3-15 against Ohio State, and they've only won one national championship since the year of 1950.
For how many is Ohio State?
I don't know, 7 or 6.
Have they really won that many with Woody Hayes? They won 14. Well, listen, I'm also an Ohio State fan. I love Ryan Day. You know that. And Kyle McCord's from Philly, so let's not discount that. But you have to admit, even as an Ohio fan, if Michigan can't do it this year, when are they ever going to do it?
They won't. This is their only opportunity they have, because this is, like you said, the top 3 that are always in the playoff are all starting new quarterbacks this year, so they have no excuse. But you're talking about how you think it's going to happen. One national championship since 1950. I don't know, bro.
Oh, no.
Mike,
I hear what you're saying. I didn't say it was going to happen, by the way. No, I'm not picking
you
Michigan.
said if it's going to happen, it's going to happen this year.
Yeah. I mean, listen.
To be fair.
Yeah, I just look at the matchup against Georgia. If Michigan can have someone knock out the big SEC team, then they have a chance. It's hard. It's really hard to knock off the SEC. I mean, it's Alabama, LSU, Georgia. I mean, they're incredible.
855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Coming up, the one thing that made us stop dead in our tracks today. We'll get that to you in just moments. You want to watch the show, youtube.com/CBS Sports Radio. Of course, you can listen to us on all of our amazing CBS Sports Radio affiliates, who we say hello to. The absolutely free to download Odyssey app is crystal clear. Take it with you wherever you go. And SiriusXM channel 158. Don't move. We're back in a moment.